Bad boy.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? You've tuned in live to the flyest sports and entertainment podcast in all the land. This is statlinesmatter. I'm your host, Mark Stewart, and with me is my partner here, Rob Hunter Jr. Before you jump in, I would like you to like, subscribe, and get the notifications on our YouTube channel. We thank you so much for getting the word out. Growth is unbelievable. Also, follow us on our social media platform, any social media platform. We're statlinesmatter at Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. So, and more importantly, get the audio of our podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you get your podcast from. So,
and if we ain't on there, tell them to get it.
Yes. And when you go in there, like, give us the 5-star rating and leave a comment. Please.
Comment.
Yeah. We need all that stuff.
Yeah, talk.
Yeah.
Let us know you
out there, and we'll shout you out on the show even. What's going on, brother?
How you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing good. It's we're a couple of days away, or at least a day away by the time this airs, from some football.
The last week was without football. We just got over
experienced it. So this is this is the week it all goes down. We got a preseason game, a Hall of Fame game. I'm not 100% sure who's playing. I think it's I want to say the Raiders. Is it the Raiders in Jacksonville?
I have no idea. I never know who's playing in that game. It just
we know it's there. I'm not gonna lie. I've bet on probably the last 3 Hall of Fame games.
How'd you make out?
Lost every time.
Oh, well, all right then. Well,
but it gave me like a real exciting way and
sure. You put the money on the wood,
yeah,
everything changes.
So but I've lost. I think I've lost. But I bet I'm that guy. I bet on.
So I mean, how do you do your homework?
You're just guessing. It's not so much that you're guessing. I'll be honest with you. What you're doing is you're trying to come up with a way that you think this game will go, especially if it's like a veteran team against a team that has like guys with lots to prove. Then you sort of put money on.
Lots to prove.
You go with the lots to prove. You go with these guys are going to sit out. These guys are going to play hard like later into the game. And especially too, if you think a team had a deep, good draft where some of those, draft picks that are late have to get on the field and prove, then that's where you put your money. And with all that, I'd still lose.
I remember the preseason. One of my memories that won't ever go away was, I believe, in '87. He's 87 or 88. The Falcons went 4-0 in the preseason. And
you got the game twisted.
Oh, especially then. I was like 10, and I was like, yo. And Gilbert Renfro, I'll never forget. Gilbert Renfro was a black quarterback, and he played obviously in all of those games. And he played great, and he was like throwing. I was like, "Hey, Gilbert Renfro, he need to start," And we went. I think we went 5-11.
That happens.
But I was like, "Hey, look, we can go to the." Like, I had no idea that the blitz packages weren't in. I didn't have it.
Yeah, no, you're taking football at absolute face value. I think that
I was excited every game, every preseason game. I felt like it was a Super Bowl.
I still get excited about preseason, but not the score, just what I see.
I was scoring we won.
Yeah. See, that's just. You were young.
Yes,
you were like 11, like 10 or 11.
I was like 9, 10, somewhere around there. And I was going to school like, hey, okay now.
It's funny. Cleveland is one of those teams that go out and kill it in preseason and then go 1 for 15 and or 0-16 and one of the things that the Browns, who are a topic on their show a lot, the reason that they made the trade, the famous or infamous, depending on your side of it, trade to get Deshaun Watson is to change the culture, because they changed a lot of players, and they had, obviously they had some level of success under Baker Mayfield. They got to the playoffs, won their first playoff game in God knows how long, but that wasn't enough. And I give them credit for that. Like, you can't stop there, and you had an issue with Baker, and they made a move. I don't have a problem with it. But then you went and got a guy that had a little dirt under his nails. And now
allegedly.
And And if you've lived under a rock, you're not realizing, or you don't realize that he's been accused 24 times of some sort of sexual misconduct with masseuses and girls that he wanted to be his masseuse, because he has a little, I'm going to put this delicately, but a little fetish with little rub and tug on his.
Touch it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Touch it. Just touch it. Just touch it. Can I turn around, please?
No, and then he'd be like, one of the things he would do.
Allegedly.
One of the things he would do is just get
charged.
The smallest towel that he could get and put it over his junk, and then just like, you can take it off. Take it off. But anyway,
so what is he like laying them out like, oh, that one's a little too big?
Yeah.
So, okay,
there you go.
This is the size.
So after a long summer of, this started last year, sits out all last year while this is being investigated criminally. Nothing came of it criminally. 2 grand juries were
did not indict,
put together,
and that's a low.
That was set.
That's a low bar. Like grand jury.
Oh yeah, just a preponderance of the evidence.
Yeah, it's not like beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yeah, no,
so
it's just like
the bar is very
there's a
low.
Reasonable like inference that you did this.
He might have done it.
Yeah,
all right, and so then they indict.
And it's Texas.
Yes.
So you have a black man in Texas. They indict for any reason.
I think they tried to indict me the other day.
I mean, they probably should have. So they chose not to indict. And then all went civil.
Yes,
and so
he been knocking them down. There's one case left.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'm of the belief that he handled it wrong, because if you were going to settle, you could have settled last year.
Sure.
And got through a lot of this, right? But he was like, I'm
better late than never, though.
But I'm gonna fight and prove my innocence. And I'm like, dude, we read the accounts. You're nuts. Like, okay, let's be clear. You're nuts, bro. Like, for real, whatever you're doing, or maybe, okay, let me rephrase. You're a little freaky. And I guess we all have our thing, but you can't call 60-something different women off Instagram to come give you the rub and tug on your stuff.
Well, it's a numbers game. You 60, if 6 show up, you won.
Yeah, but how many times you gonna go to the well, so to speak?
Hey, I mean, obviously he went enough. That was his well, and it did not run dry.
And women were running out, like petrified and mortified, I guess. And so it turned into a huge investigation by the NFL. And so if you don't know, when in 2020 they revamped how these things are adjudicated.
It was collectively bargained.
It was collectively bargained that it would be a what do you call it? A arbitrator.
Yeah, basically
binding arbitration. And so you ended up with this woman who did a full investigation. She was an attorney or judge,
a federal prosecutor,
federal prosecutor, and ended up, based on their rule, saying that he gets 6 games. And the NFLPA, I guess they had a sense that this was going to go this way, said that they weren't going to appeal it, and we'll see. The NFL has till Thursday, and Goodell has some sweeping powers, but they have to be based on something. So I think this one might be over. And if it is over, then it becomes a football issue, right? He's out 6 games. Of those 6 games, 3 of them are the Jets, the Falcons, and one other winnable game who I forget. And then it's 3 games that they'll probably lose: Pittsburgh and New England and somebody else.
Yeah, but I mean, Pittsburgh is not a gimme.
Not with Trubisky playing.
That's what I'm saying.
But it's a
Trubisky.
gimme with Jacoby Brissett. Because of the defense. I mean, Pittsburgh's defense will give him fits.
They might, but I mean, the Browns got a pretty good defense too. So I think it'll be and then obviously, that's a divisional game. It's going to be competitive. At least we hope. But yes.
But the great thing is, and this is the script that you can't write. He returns. You can't make this up, against Baltimore. Like, you can't script that back.
That's gonna be lit.
That's gonna be lit. Him against Lamar. Lamar's playing for a contract. It's a divisional game. These guys, I mean, come on, these guys, it's a lot of fire.
And when I did the post today on IG, I was looking at this, and I saw the amount of money that he was going to lose, which was 6 game checks, $345,000, and I was like, man, He's winning.
That's not 6 game checks. It's like when it's all said and done and calculated based upon what he basically paid last year and this year. Like by the time they do the calculation, it's 6 games. But that wouldn't be. It's $345,000 when his salary wouldn't add up to 300.
His base salary is $1 million. It's $1 million.
So all that's bonus money?
Yes, that's how they structured the deal. $46 million was a bonus.
Really?
Yeah. So he's not losing. So the way that they structured the deal is paragraph 42 in his contract. Paragraph 42 basically says it's non-voidable even if he's suspended for the entire year. So it's non-voidable, and the suspension, basically the money's going to come from the bonus money's untouchable.
There it is. So they did it. They did their job. The agent, the lawyers.
Oh my God!
They did their job. And as someone who's from that world, I commend them. This is tricky. This is a tricky situation because you do have women's issues. This is akin to Me Too. There's misconduct here for sure on behalf of Deshaun, if not criminal. It's not criminal, but it doesn't mean there's no misconduct. So you have to figure out how to deal with this, because if you're the NFL, you can't slap on the wrist because then you're going to get a lot of backlash, and you're going to get a lot of backlash anyway. And the reality is this, I was going to say this to you and I called you earlier and you didn't pick up when I called you, but they could have said it's 2 years, and the same people who are mad about the 6 games have been like, it wasn't enough.
Well, and I think you have to be careful here if you're Roger Goodell, just for the optics. A woman said 6 games.
Yeah.
So I think you can't win for losing, because if you come behind a woman and you say, nah, you messed up, and give him a year, that's why I think he just lays low, because they thought he had too much power anyway. This was collectively bargained. Because like the women are basically mad. You gonna be mad at another woman? Well, a federal prosecutor, she the one gave him the 6th game.
Well, his sweeping powers are not necessarily about going against the ruling. It's about, I have the power to add on for the good of the game. So it's not like he would be going.
So you don't think that's undermining her ruling?
And because I don't know exactly, I have a friend of mine who's an attorney who calls me on this stuff all the time and tells me the legality of it. So Alec, you'll call me and school me on this again, but they have to accept her findings, but he still has some power to go, I can legislate.
He can do that. Yeah.
Yes. But that's not, it's clearly won't be like to negate what she's done. It's to add on,
but I believe,
based on what he believes is in the good of the game.
She, the special investigator said that it lacked evidence, and so
clearly, if it did,
that's too. And so what the evidence, the NFL was pushing for a year, and Deshaun's team was pushing for no games. So it looks like she just met in the middle, so to speak.
And I think if you've been following this, it's kind of like we all knew it was going to end up there anyway. It just took a really long, we call that going around the mountain to get across the street. It was going to be 6 to 8 games. It didn't need all this to be 6 or 8 games. Like you could look at this and go, this is going to be 6 to 8 games.
But I think, okay, if you're going to be mad, like, I don't think you can be mad at Roger Goodell. I don't think you can be mad at the process. Oh, if you wanted to be mad at the special investigator, there were 2 grand juries that could have indicted. If there was, that's to me, that's who you should be mad at. You shouldn't be mad at Roger. Like, this was a criminal investigation that 2 grand juries in the state of Texas decided not to indict. So that's, to me, that's where your anger should be. It can't. I mean, he's at. And what they're trying to do, in the NFL, protect the shield. So they're gonna try to reprimand him, but they're reprimanding him for. I mean, if this was a regular job and you don't get, there's no criminal charges, there's nothing that happens to you. And so, being that you're in the NFL and it's a PR thing,
Yeah, but the PR thing is real. The thing that makes it tricky,
real, but he ain't been convicted of nothing. That man has no criminal record.
The thing that makes it tricky for the NFL from a PR standpoint, and I think when you have a $7 billion or $8 billion business, PR matters, because you're talking about sponsors, you're talking about people who can lean on things that really affect the money,
the
right?
bread, yeah.
So The issue here is that they've had their problems with adjudicating issues pertaining to women. And, going back to Ray Rice, 2-game suspension when they knew what happened. Then when the video gets leaked and they add to it, and then
basically indefinitely.
Then he's blackballed, even though it was 6 more games, he's blackballed out of the league and you never see him again because it would be a PR nightmare to bring the guy who smacked his wife or his girl at the time and then ultimately ended up being his wife on camera. Then that's one of a bunch that they've kind of fumbled. So to understand Goodell's position, again, my word is you have to understand the context of how he has to make a decision because his PR is tied to all those other things. And those come in when you have to make the decision. Now, it's gonna be a lot of hand wringing, but when it's all said and done, it's gonna be 6 games.
And his job, and you're right, his job is ultimately just to make money for the NFL. That's his job. Yeah. So if it's gonna make or maintain the cash flow, then it'll be more games. If he doesn't see that net tangible benefit, then
and they got a TV deal. It's a lot of things that are hanging in the balance. I wouldn't want his job, but this is why he makes like $35 or $40 million a year. So the one thing I would say though, like from a football perspective, it helps Cleveland to understand sort of how they have to survive this. I think if they go 3-3 in 06, I think that's a huge win. They have 3 winnable games. You could look at Pittsburgh as a possible win. So they could go 4-2, they could go 2-4. But if they can get 3-3, and then with Deshaun coming back, and if they stay healthy defensively, this is a team that's going to be I would say have to be dealt with because it's a huge upgrade at quarterback. And so all of a sudden now you have a guy that's, assuming he's, plays like he's always played.
You got 2 years.
You got a top 5. Yeah. You have a top 5 quarterback.
But he's going to be knocking off some rust. And I think that game is going to be a loss for Cleveland, just not based on Deshaun's ability.
Talking about when he comes back?
Yeah, but his ability to just adjust to everything. That's a long time. He's missed 23 total games.
Yeah.
And that's a very long time. So I'll just say, I said this earlier, Deshaun is just lay low.
Yeah.
You just lay low.
Yeah, no more. Come on now. No more massages, freak boy. No massages. No massages. I don't care.
Just go by the sharper image. Get that little gun.
Yeah, just do yourself. Just wherever you can reach on your own body with the thing, with the little jackhammer thing.
Just use that.
That's just you. This is you by yourself in the ice tub. I don't want no women rubbing on you.
0. Or let him just be a man then. Let a man massage you. I know that ain't what you used to. But give it a shot.
And put your clothes on.
Strong hands.
Yeah. Also in the NFL news, I don't know. Well, I don't know if you saw this because normally this is the type of thing you would call me about because it was such a, it was sort of racially tinged, and I know you be focused on this, but Kyler Murray signed for like $230 million himself or whatever the number was, a significant amount of money, but they added a clause that said he had to study his playbook or study game film 4 hours a week. Independently in order, and then failure to do so could jeopardize the guaranteed money in the deal.
And then they subsequently removed it.
They removed it because there was a lot of backlash that was racially tinged. But I'll tell you like this, and I said this to one of my boys that was like, this would never happen to a white quarterback and the whole nine. And I said, listen, man, he signed that deal.
He did sign it.
And if there's just 2 things. If he didn't know that it was in there, shame on you, shame on your agent and your attorney. But I think you did know. And I think you knew why they put it in there. And if this is the type of thing that they're hanging on you, that's really bad, bro. That's really bad. If there's any truth to that, and there has to be because you signed it.
Yeah, I think, well, from what I understand, he's not the hardest worker. I think that's come out. And whenever you put a clause in there like, hey man, you got to study for the job. That's so I didn't feel, I do feel like maybe there was some on the surface it looks like that. But if nothing's in there for Lamar, if nothing is in there for Russell Wilson,
it's like 15 black quarterbacks that don't have this. So you don't. The argument that this is racial just doesn't hold.
Right. And so I'm like, hey man, just go ahead and get your lesson. You know what I mean? Get your lesson.
Yeah, and here's the thing about Kyler.
They should have did that for Vic when he was in Atlanta.
And Jamarcus. Yeah, I got a bunch of guys they could have had. They should have had that for Trubisky. like for real? Trubisky, Jamarcus Russell, like Big. Like there's a lot of guys that I know you don't play the game like you studied the playbook. You don't know what's going on.
You don't be
here.
watching no film, do you? You don't.
You just out here.
Vic said them game film, them tapes was stacking up in his back seat.
Wow.
That hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
That hurt me. You know how hard I used to ride for number 7, man. I was like, really, bro? That's what you...
Can you imagine if, and I don't know if we ever said
I'm
this
still
on the
sad.
show. Can you imagine if they gave him the offense that they gave Lamar?
Oh, man. Ooh. Yeah, that would be... I mean, they kind of tried to a little bit with Ward done the read option a little bit.
I mean, but it's not... But what they do is not just read option.
Well, yeah, but Jim Moore is not the coach that Harbaugh is.
No. And I give the Ravens a ton of credit.
And they brought in... I'm sorry, I don't want to go back. But Greg Knapp. That's the antithesis of the offense that Vic should have been running.
Yeah.
Sorry. No one cares about that.
Yeah, but I'm saying if just give him that, sort of run the ball... but kind of run one read, 2 reads, have the field type vibes. I think he would have been
awesome.
Yeah, he would have done some
yeah, but I mean, I think Lamar actually studies film though, so maybe.
No, I think Lamar has.
Maybe not.
Listen, I'm not going to sit here and try to remix. I wasn't one of the people who believed that he was going to be, that his game would translate to the NFL. And I think, certain teams he'd have gone to that were not willing to craft a system for him, it would have exposed that. But I think he's more than proven that not only can you win with him, but I think you can dominate. Now, with that said, he has to prove that in the playoffs. He has not got it done. His playoff performances have been soft at best. But
league MVP though.
But a league MVP and a constant threat to win games, to just win a regular season game. So you have to get to the tournament first. He's pretty good at getting his team to the tournament. Like last year, they had the most injuries in 19 or 20 years, and they were still at some point still knocking on the door.
I think for the Ravens, it just gets worse and worse, right? You watch Deshaun, who, he's like, I'm a league MVP. I've never been in trouble. And you got Deshaun, who's been in all sorts of trouble, get a record-breaking deal. And then Kyler comes out, and he gets his deal. And they're and so the number just keeps
keeps going up. And they're not going to get I think we learned this with the Dakota Prescott deal. They're not going to get, he's just going to keep getting market value. There's not going to be a hometown discount.
Right.
There
shouldn't be.
There shouldn't be. Absolutely shouldn't be.
Particularly for the way that he, and I would use that. I'd be like, you see the way that I play?
Exactly.
Okay. If you want me to play like that and not think about, injury, if you want me to play, carefree and not have to worry about, somebody rolling my knee or my ankle, I need a fully guaranteed contract and let's go out and win a Super Bowl.
And hopefully they learn from what happened with Dallas, because I think Dallas was, I don't know, I'm not going to say they were hoping that something happened that led them to believe that he wasn't worthy of the contract. It's kind of a weird position when you're the team, because on one hand, you don't want to pay him the money because you haven't paid it. And then, which means by de facto, you're rooting for him to not be successful. So you have leverage to come back and go.
You're rooting for the backup to just go out and kill it.
Yeah. And so when Dak got hurt, he had 3 500-yard games or something crazy like that.
It. Yeah,
so he left on a high note. And then the quarterback, I think it was Andy Dalton or somebody that came in behind
and then
him.
They had the third string guy. I forgot his name.
And they all just stunk up the joint.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
And that was, every time they stunk, it just added more to his deal. And I just, I think the Ravens should learn something from the Cowboys. Pay that man his money.
Sure. And another thing, he's in camp. He's in camp. Yeah. He's not holding out. They don't pay you to be there. He's there for free right now.
Yeah. And he would be well justified in not showing up.
Sure. Sure.
So he's there. He's doing what
know
he
what
needs
I'm going to do when I get there. I just get this check right, then I'm going to pull up on you.
So I give him a lot of credit for that. Also in the news, in NBA news and sad news, the NBA loses a legend in Bill Russell, the original champ, the OG champ, the guy most associated with winning, the greatest winner in the history of basketball with those old Celtics teams. I believe 8 in a row, 11 overall, something like that.
8 in a row. Now, they was beating the same 8 teams, but that's neither here nor there.
Yes.
And I think the part about Bill Russell, as I was prepping for the show, is you really found out, or at least for me anyway, like the hatred that the city of Boston had for his black skin. And Bill Russell always maintained, and I didn't know this, that he never played for Boston. He played for the Celtics. Yeah. He drew that distinction. Even when they retired his jersey in 1972, he said the only way he would do it is if it was a private ceremony.
Yeah.
I did not know that. He said that the city of Boston, is a flea market of racism.
Mm-hmm. And especially in those days.
So it was just, and then even up until now, Marcus Smart, saying that, it's still very hard some days, some games to play there. And obviously we know about the racism that, with the Boston Red Sox, and they were the last team to integrate.
Yeah.
12 years after Jackie Robinson. Yeah. So
12 years is a whole career.
I didn't know. I just didn't know that it was that contentious, between him and the way that he felt about the city that he played in. So, the legend is, I told you when you text me, I said, yeah, he's in the real finals now. He's,
Yeah. It's sad because I think we lost one of the guys who weren't just, I'm a player on the court. He played in the league when the money wasn't so big, where it kept your mouth shut. He was one of the guys, along with Jim Brown and Arthur Ashe, that spoke out about civil rights and the issues of the day. He wasn't afraid to risk anything. And I think he ended up having a really good relationship. I can't speak to this. There's other guys, the Boston guys that, sports writers and historians can speak to this. But him and Red Auerbach had a really good relationship. Red really liked him, from what I understand. And they had a good understanding, despite the things that I think him and his teammates knew that him and the other black players on the team were going through.
Yeah, and he was consistently out front. He spoke against the segregation in the schools in Boston. The FBI had an open file on him. They called him an arrogant Negro that would not sign autographs for young white children. It was like I had no idea that the FBI was following, Bill Russell. Like I had no clue that he had that relationship with the city, and that he was, but I guess the FBI was opening up files on anyone that was trying to, I guess, have, and I think civil rights I always say civil rights is like just the minimum,
Yeah.
But,
but I think, and not to go too far down too far down the political realm, but it's kind of like we see it today. It's interesting how sort of as time goes by, society, I'll call it mainstream society, tends to try to do what I would call a remix on what their relationship is to these issues. When Black Lives Matter comes out, it's like, oh, it's a racist organization, it's this and that, and they're teaching hate and divide and all of that. And if you go back and you just open a book or you open a file at a library, you realize the exact same things were said about the people who stood up for civil rights at that time.
Yeah.
FBI investigations. Oh, it's dividing the country. It's, they're militant, they're dangerous, and it's all those things. And we're getting that same thing today. It's like, whether it's critical race theory or whatever, we have these buzzwords that get everybody worked up. And then as, 20, 30 years down the line, they go, oh, they were these, and everybody tries to do the remix. But the reality of it is, those guys were living through a lot of the same stuff that athletes have to live through today. The only difference is some of these guys, and I don't know why, every time I think about guys making a lot of money, I think of Otto Porter. Like, Otto Porter is making a lot of money, and he's not even that good. And the good guys are making a ton of money. And so that soothes some of the stuff when you talk about a guy like Marcus Smart experiencing that in Boston. It's like, his 25 or 30 million, whatever he's making per year, helps him to be able to manage.
Yeah. He moved, Russell moved immediately after that year after he played his last game. He moved immediately.
Who did?
Bill Russell.
Oh, Bill Russell, yeah.
and never, and well, I won't say never return, but only return for a certain occasion.
And I don't know if this is true or not. I probably should have done more homework on this guy, but because he was, again, a legend. Because it was a legend before my time, and I'm actually low-key old, but I never got a chance to see him play. But I heard that he didn't even attend his induction into the Hall of Fame. Because I think I'm pretty sure that's in Springfield, Massachusetts.
Yeah, look, this is a guy who, he would be out and he had his home vandalized, they defecated in his bed, sprayed the N-word all over the walls.
Yeah, that story is legendary.
Like, that is tough because you feel like, right, winning, at least for that, if you're a part of that, you're one of the main guys, that are part of a winning organization and championship. You feel like at least, while you're in your prime, that you would be above that for a moment.
Right.
But he was not. Right. And I think that to me it's pretty heartbreaking. Right. Because all you hear is, when you read about his story, is like, man, they really did not mess with you while you were out there.
No, and
his teammates let him down.
Yeah. And I've seen, I don't think we talked about this on a previous podcast, that I've seen Bob Cousy more recently in an interview literally break down on, like, just from the point of view of going, I should have done more and I should have been there for my teammates. And it's like, it was kind of the way things were done. Not that it's not an excuse to me, but it's kind of like, my point is we're kind of seeing the same thing today. Like, as much as we think things have changed, only the money's changed, not the sensibility. Right. Before we get out of here,
rest in peace.
Rest in peace, Bill. Like, listen, these guys stand on your shoulders, and you don't measure everything in money. You are a legend, and they're going to measure you through accomplishment, what you did with that team, and you led that team. And I think Bill is one of those guys. And, like, I know a lot of these young dudes is out here like, oh, plumbers and this and the third. Bill Russell could have played today.
Yeah.
He could have played today.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. One last thing I want to revisit before we get out of here is one of our show's favorites, the coldest to ever do it, Crawford, has locked in a NIL, NIL, name and image and likeness deal. So we brought him up. He was a top recruit. He ended up at Nebraska. His parents named him the coldest. His mama. Middle name to ever do it.
The coldest. DECOLDEST.
Tell us about this name, image, and likeness deal that he signed.
He signed with SOS Heating and Cooling. So it's an HVAC company, and basically, like, if anybody knows cool, it's the coldest.
It's the coldest.
It's the coldest. So I think it's just amazing.
I think it's genius.
He's from Louisiana. He was originally committed to LSU and followed the receivers coach who got.
Okay, I was wondering, how did he end up?
He said
in Lincoln, Nebraska.
He said he followed the guy who coached Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase.
Yeah, the only problem with that is Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase had this guy by the name of Joe Burrow.
That's right.
Who was throwing him the football. And they don't have a Joe Burrow. I think Martinez is about to have his 12th season as quarterback.
Is he coming back?
Man, he might be. Martinez has been a quarterback in Nebraska since '89.
And I think he transferred in there, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. I think he had come from somebody else. But, I was also thinking, like, if he get to the league, he could do, like, like when he's an adult, like the coldest malt liquor. Like,
oh yeah, like he can do. And the cool thing about him is he can do mainstream and urban, because he can do the coldest malt liquor and then, like, the coldest frosty brew.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like he can get both.
It quenches my hot thirst when I drank it.
Right,
the coldest malt liquor bowl.
And it pops open. It's got the little sound effect and the little foam at the top. No, but shout out to that kid, man. Like, this is what branding and marketing is all about. I think this is what name, image, and likeness is all about. Because here's the thing. You're not going to go looking for a Nebraska Husker game. But now I will.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to check out the coldest.
Because I want the coldest to get on the field. I know he's a freshman. I hope he gets to return kicks or gets out there and plays or whatever. I guess if he was at LSU, caliber player, then he should probably be able to step on.
She should start day one.
He should step on it, especially at that team.
Because I think they still recruiting flankers. They call them flankers.
They do call them flankers up there. You know what? I would love to be able to sit here and go, no, they don't. But I think they do.
And their flanker had to leave. Wan'Dale Robinson had to leave and go to Kentucky and had an amazing season.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even remember the last time Nebraska had a legitimate quarterback. I mean, without going back to like Tommy Frazier and guys like that.
Well, boy, and Scott Frost.
Scott Frost was guy. I guess he was pretty good.
He won the Heisman.
Kid Frost.
Yeah, man. Yeah. He had this.
Yeah, no, he can lose.
He was the coldest.
Scott Frost was the coldest. Scott Frost. Yo, that's pretty wild. Yo, Kid Frost. That's how I used to call him, Kid Frost.
Kid Frost. That was a Hispanic rapper from L.A.
Yeah, Kid Frost.
This is for La Raza.
Was that his record?
Yeah.
Because I knew the record, and I knew Kid Frost, but I didn't know those were together.
This is why I promoted it. He was going to sign to Relativity.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Shout out to Kid Frost.
Kid Frost. Hey, shout out to Kid Frost.
Wherever you are.
Hey, when you tune in to this podcast, you don't know.
Hey, if any of our listeners know Kid Frost, like, let him know. We
tell him, man. Tell him, hey, man, we checking for you, boy.
Yeah,
we checking for you. Him and the Booyah Tribe.
Were you promoted them as well?
No, I didn't. I just remember they were from that era. I mean, they were cholos for real.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they had the long hair. And you don't remember the Booyah Tribe?
I don't.
Oh my gosh, I saw them.
You were way more into rap than I was.
Well, you couldn't miss them when it came on Arsenio Hall show.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know what I was seeing. I had never seen Mexican. I believe they were Mexican hip hop gangsters. I had never seen that before. So they had the shirts with
button up,
but it was loose right here. Yeah, man, it was a whole.
That's
you're actually looking at a culture, and I hadn't been.
Yeah, unless you're on the West Coast, I think the people on the West Coast are a little bit.
Yeah,
more
I was in Decatur, Georgia. Like, what the hell?
That's funny. Well, again, I'm going to quickly reiterate to please like, subscribe, get the notifications on our YouTube channel. Thank you for your support as always. Check us on our social media across all platforms at statlinesmatter, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. And also, please go find our audio podcast on any place you get your podcast from. So for this week, another great week. We're excited to get into football. We got some great announcements that are coming soon. But until then, my partner, Rob Hunter, I am Mark Stewart, and this is Stat Lines Matter.
Bad boy. I ain't come for games. Say it to my face. Say it to my face. I ain't come for games. Say it to my face. Say it to my face.